Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for the Q&As, so let's go ahead and get this started. Alright, first question. Hey Jason, any training tips on how to progress on a deadlift as an advanced lifter without screwing up recovery? I have a 550 deadlift and I feel like I can't make any more progress. Doesn't matter whatever I try to add more reps, more weight, more volume, whatever I do it kills my recovery. The problem is that I have to add something somewhere to keep progressing, but whenever I try to do that, my recovery goes to trash. What should I do? My ultimate goal is 600, but those remaining 50 pounds seems almost impossible to reach. The joys of deadlifting as an advanced lifter. I feel your pain, brother. We all do. Here's what I'm going to say. You're going to need to not work on the deadlift, or you need to specialize in the deadlift to increase it. And I know that sounds bizarre. In other words, stop hitting heavy deadlifts, stop doing max deadlifts, and work on accessory movements, work on your other stuff, and pick exercises that will hypertrophy all the muscles involved in the weak links, and look at your squat variations, everything that you do, and build all of that around improving your deadlift, and just come in and deadlift moderately, right? Like even look at what I do right now on my conjugate stuff. I come in and I pull at 90%, right? About 90%. For singles, 3 singles, and I don't touch another deadlift. Like at least a normal deadlift, like we would think of with a heavy weight. But I do a ton of accessory work for it. I've also had periods of time to where I specialize in the deadlift more, right? Where I was doing like 10 sets of pretty heavy deadlifts every single week. But my overall training for the week, my training volume for everything was relatively low. Those are kind of your options. Like you need to pick one of those two as an advanced lifter. In my experience, there's not really a good middle ground. There really isn't to improve your deadlift. Once you get well past 500, unless you're genetically gifted, there's not really a middle ground there, man. You've either got to just build all the musculature involved and just maintain the movement pattern, moderately heavy, or you have to really specialize in the deadlift and cut out most of the extraneous stuff and focus on the deadlift. Right? Meaning you can't worry about your squat and your bench press and stuff as much and specialize in the deadlift. And then you can do more training on the deadlift itself, right? You can do a lot more towards the deadlift, but you kind of have to let the other stuff just chill for a bit to pull that off if you do it that way. So that's the two strategies that usually work. Just my experience over the years observing myself and others, right? Pick one of those two and run with it. All right, next question. Hi Jason, how can I rebuild my squat and deadlift as a novice according to your standards? I restart from 0 4 months ago due to injuries, and now I'm benching the same weight that I'm squatting. Should I add some accessory exercises or just keep training the actual lifts? Thanks. Oh man. No, it's fine. I mean, it happens. It's just funny that, when you're at the point like, man, I'm benching as much as I squat. Because that does happen. All right, here's what I'm going to recommend. Train around those old injuries. You need to figure out what caused those injuries and make sure you strengthen those areas. Given that you're no longer a true necessarily novice lifter, because if you're benching a reasonable amount and you have training experience, you should probably work on your weak points on the squat also, right? And I think that's totally reasonable for you at this point. If you detrain due to some injuries and you're going to rebuild, yeah. Go ahead and train them on a normal program, right? A novice type program, but address your weak links. Go find what your weaknesses are in your squat, because you'll know, film yourself, find your weaknesses and train them. It might be some extra thoracic erector work. You might need extra ab work. You might need extra hamstring work. Go in and find your weak links and do some actual accessory movements. And I think for rebuilding for someone with training experience, even though you might have novice lifts right now on the lower body lifts, I think adding those accessories will be just fine. You have more training experience and you can probably assess them. The reason I recommend the minimalist style for more novice lifters with less experience is because they will pick the wrong exercises. They don't have training experience. They don't have knowledge. They will waste recovery and they will waste exercise economy on lifts that aren't going to help them as much, and they should just be doing more squatting. Right? They should be doing more benching. They should be doing more rowing. That's what they need to do. And they don't know how to pick appropriate accessory movements. They don't know enough about the lifts to do anything but the basic lifts. And therefore, that's all they should do. A more advanced lifter with more experience you can probably, hopefully, start to identify your weaknesses and actually pick effective movements. Because if you tell a novice lifter just to pick some accessory movements, they're going to do nothing but a bunch of damn curls. They're going to do 20 sets of curls every week. That's going to be their accessory movements, because they really are that stupid. And that's just reality, guys. That's young men who are new to the gym. They don't know any better. That is going to be their accessory movements for their squat. No, you can back your squatting down and just do more curls. So in your case, though, again, you're probably a little more savvy to some of this. Pick appropriate accessories. Build your weak links up in your squat. And yeah, go ahead and add them in. It'll be fine. All right, next question. Jason, do you think it would be a great idea in a powerlifting competition that had deadlift, squat, and standing press? It already exists. It's called strength lifting. That's an actual sport. I don't think strength lifting is going to take off. I can appreciate the idea. I like the idea. And I might even consider competing in it one day. But at this point, even for me, the way I look at it is that the big three are already a very, very good proxy for strength. We already have an extremely well-established worldwide sport with an enormous following that is growing based around the squat, bench, and deadlift. It already exists, and there's enormous amounts of coaching around the bench press. The other problem we have is that the standing press will always be weaker than the bench press. So it's going to contribute less to the total. You're less likely to win by specializing in it. And it's not that you even win meets based upon your bench per se, but it's a bigger gap between the two, and especially some of the technique you can get involved. Benching is just going to be a bigger number, so it's going to contribute more to the total, and they're both upper body dominant exercises. So from a competitive perspective, I don't see the powerlifting going anywhere, and quite frankly, because of the size and competitiveness of it, when I go back into competition, I'm just far more likely to go into that for those reasons. And it's, even though I personally like the standing press more than the bench, that isn't what our strength standard is. And you know what? If another sport had 3 different lifts that were still good proxies for strength besides the big 3, and we called it powerlifting or whatever lifting, but it was the most popular strength sport and a valid test of strength, which powerlifting is, I'd go compete in that. And that's the way you have to look at this. It's not like they aren't a great choice for determining overall strength. They really are. We can argue about whether they're the best or not all day long, and there are valid arguments to be made against that. But at the end of the day, it's the single most popular strength sport. It's a pure strength sport, right? It's a pure strength sport that has 3 big exercises that are good proxies for overall strength. So I don't see that changing anytime soon. There's already tradition around it. There's all this stuff. It would be like at this point coming in and saying, oh, well, we're going to make a different version of soccer, or most people call it football around the world, and then we're just going to make some variation to about a third of the rules because we feel it would be better, and we'll see if it takes off. You're not going to get the same competitiveness. So it's like something like strength lifting. I love the idea. I think it's a fantastic idea. I think it got implemented 20 years too late. And I think that's what's going to hurt it more than anything else. That happens a lot in this world, though. It happens in a lot of other areas, not just sports. That's just life. So, I love the idea of it, but I don't see it really ever taking off and replacing real powerlifting with the squat, bench, and deadlift at this point. Not going to happen. All right, next question. Hey, Jason, what type of intermediate strength program would you recommend? RPE, percentage-based, concurrent, and what's your personal favorite other than your program? Those are oftentimes the same thing. Okay. All right. You actually asked RPE, percentage-based, concurrent. That should be a RPE versus percentage-based, and then concurrent versus linear or something else, right? You can run concurrent with RPE or percentage-based. Concurrent is how you periodize it, right? That's a form of periodization. RPE versus percentage-based is determining what weight to use. So, to answer the question, concurrent training. I think once you're well out of the novice phase and you've built a good base, I tend to say concurrent is the way to go. There are exceptions. I think intermediate athletes athletes, notice I'm saying athletes, should do a couple phases of probably linear progression. Linear periodization, I mean. It's not a bad idea. But I think at a certain threshold, even field athletes and other people, football players, right, should probably be switching over, easing into concurrent. Most of the data I've seen suggests that's the way to go. It's what I personally use. It's very effective for elite level athletes. And let's be honest here. Once you're an intermediate lifter and you're continuing to try to improve, you're trying to become a serious athlete, right? Like, why are you trying to improve beyond that then? That's what I would say to most guys. Look, unless you are trying to become a serious athlete, or you have extremely serious endeavors in some way, you probably don't need to deadlift 405 more than 5 reps, or bench 225 more than 5 or 6 reps, like clean pause reps. If you can do that, you probably don't need to progress much more. If you just want to look big, you just want to be in shape, yeah, that's fine. You don't have to keep focusing on your gains. And if you're focusing on gains beyond that, you're actually getting relatively serious. You're saying, okay, I've got pretty serious goals at this point, which is fine, because that's what I do. I mean, I have serious goals. I get it. I'm in that category. At which point then we need to start looking more into easing into concurrent style periodization. But as far as things like RPE versus percentages, I use both. Go watch all my training over, say, the last 2 months, right? You were to take all my current conjugate concurrent style periodization I'm doing, and you were to break it down, it should be very apparent. I utilize both personally. I utilize both. And that's really common among very, very serious athletes as well. So there you have it. All 3 of those things you listed are technically in the area of my favorite. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.